theory and timeline. He said Mystery Man said he was on track. How, when, etc.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
All right. Let's take a 5-minute setup on Planet X.
All right.
All right. In my book, let's get a plug in. Is that cool?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Let's do it.
The book is called The Return of Planet X. Just Google up Planet X, and I'm all over the internet and the book and references and all that stuff. Anyway, my original thesis and theory was that around 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, when the planets were coming together and coalescing, and of course the sun was doing its thing, there were originally 12 planets in our solar system, not the 9 that we recognize. And we had 3 suns. There was the Sol that we know, the sun we see every day. There's the blue-black giant that anchors and controls our sun about 1 billion miles out away from the center of the solar system, out into deep space. They call it the blue-black giant. And there was a third sun, a little baby sun. And it was the size of Saturn, but 60 times the mass of Saturn. It was a little baby sun that our sun was nurturing to become another fusion sun. And why was there 3 suns? That sun, we believe, was originally designed to work exclusively with Venus, Earth, and Mars. Venus being the second planet from the sun, Earth being the third, and Mars being the fourth planet from the sun. And I always like to pose the question to our listening audience. Can you imagine what kind of a computer program someone or something or some external force, be it the God force or whatever, whomever you want to give credit to, the solar system just didn't happen? The sun controls everything under its influence. All the planets, all the moons, the asteroid belt, we'll explain how that came about. It controls every aspect of our solar system in perfect, balanced.
And now Skype just closed on me. You gotta be kidding. I mean, you just gotta be kidding. Let me boot it back up. I will remain calm. I won't start screaming about 1776. That's for sure. Holy smokes. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, Dr. Rand, let's bring you back in, my friend. Boy, unbelievable. Just unfreaking believable tonight. I paid for this. I can't believe I paid for this. See what I mean? How we pay to be abused? I mean, we really do. I'm paying to be abused. I'm not. What am I getting out of this relationship with Skype? Except for headaches. And bad reviews. Listen to that show. All he does is have trouble with his phone lines. All right, Dr. Rand, let's bring you back to our world.
Hello?
Hey, Dr. Rand. Apparently the universe wasn't happy with your conversation, so you're back, though. Sorry about that.
Let's put it this way. They're back.
Yeah, let's call them the gremlins. That's really what they are. Don't feed them after midnight.
Why is it every time we talk about Planet X this happens? I don't think there's been only 1 or 2 shows where we haven't been rudely interrupted.
Oh, I know. Go figure. It's incredible.
Well, guys, if you're listening, give us a chance to say what we want to say, and then come down on us. All
right. Go ahead. So you were talking about
the sun.
Yes.
All right. Everything that happens to our planet and all the other planets and every satellite that the sun controls happens because of the sun's influence. Now, if something is disturbing the sun sheds its discomfort and its displeasure and its malfunction to everything else under its control. In this case, it would be the Earth going through all these weather changes. Hello? Everyone, anyone who wants to go ahead and check us out, just do your research on the internet. Go find out about the sun's normal cycle, which is way out of kilter. Go ahead and find out about sunspots and these aberrations where the sun spits out these energy storms, the CMEs, and all of that kind of thing, and you'll suddenly realize, as I've been saying for years, I don't believe, and I'll graduate back to Planet X, but it's important we understand the foundation. In fact, tonight's a really good night. We haven't talked about Planet X to this depth in months.
No, we haven't. And for the listeners, I'm going to tell you really quick before we dive any more into this, is that I am going to be looking into getting an actual hardline phone service into this desk here so that I don't have to deal with Skype no more. I've had it. I've really had it with them. But go ahead, Dr. Rand.
Well, you do know that they record everything on Skype, don't you?
Well, then they know I don't like them. I don't like them at all.
And you also know that if you guys out there are playing kitsy cats with your wives and girlfriends and boyfriends, don't do that. That's all being recorded. That's all I want to say. Hey, I'm not pulling an Alex Jones on you, and I'm not going to pull a Donald Trump on you. But they're watching and listening.
That's right.
Okay. Whew. Got that off my chest. All right. Now, I do not believe that the concept of global warming is accurate. And I do not believe, on the other side, that we're in a global cooling. I think what's happening is the sun is being confused by the approach and soon to be the leaving of this object, which I wrote about in the book called Planet X. Okay? By the way, you can get it on Amazon at half price. Okay? Just call them up and order the book, and they'll send it to you half price. If you want to get a book through Michael, let him know and I'll sign it. Okay? The sun right now is still in a very disturbed state. And the only way I can describe it to you is the fact that, and we're going to talk about the influence of how magnets work. I'm sure as a kid or a student, you've played with a pair of magnets. You have positive and negative force in magnets. If you put the two positives together, you can't. It's almost impossible to force two magnets against each other and hold them. If you flip them around and have the negative positive, bam, they lock in together, okay? Now, this object, which I call Planet X, or wormwood, and I'll get into the wormwood aspect in a second, what's been happening is that the mass of this object, and I'll go back in, Mike, and tell you how I think it got out there and how it all happened. I alluded to it about what would happen about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago. This object has been inbound toward our solar system. It's never, in this event, which happens about every 3,600 years, it does not go through the solar system. It doesn't go through the plane of the ecliptic. It approaches our solar system from way, way out in deep space. And how this happens is that it comes in on a 3,600-year prolonged trajectory. Imagine if you had a thick, long rubber band, and you put your index finger into one end and the index finger on the left hand and the right hand, and you pulled that huge rubber band. What would you have, Michael? You'd have a long elliptical orbit, rather narrow left to right. And what happens is that about every 3,600 years, it returns from an 1,800-year journey back from the influence of the blue-black giant, which controls our sun. Nobody talks about it. Very few people even understand the principle. And the reason that I feel confident to speak about these things is, and as you know, I was a childhood contactee. And during that time period, I was given several assignments to carry out. If you don't know what a contactee is, I'll explain it real quick.
Okay, we have other questions too, just for the record.
All right. Well, I wanted to finish up about I'll answer as many questions as we can fit in tonight, but I do want to finish this topic on Planet X because it was an excellent question. Okay.
Okay.
This object, which I call wormwood in the book, and by the way, the reason I call it wormwood was that after about 7 years of doing research, I finally worked my way down to the 8th chapter of the book of Revelation written by St. John the Divine, who was at that point excommunicated and living as a hermit on the Greek island of Patmos. And what most people don't realize, I may be digressing, but it's all part of the story, is that it was the Lord Jesus himself who dictated through an angel everything that John recorded, which became the last book of the Bible, which very few people understand. It took me years and years and years to put all the pieces together. And in fact, to this day, no offense, Rome, the Catholic Church does not teach from the book of Revelation for one very good reason, which I won't get into tonight.
Okay.
We'll let Peter Kling dig into that.
He was just on last night, as a matter of fact.
Wow. How's Peter doing?
He's doing great. We had a really good show last night. The time flew by. We made good use of it though, and then Peter was on the next show after me too. He decided he didn't have enough with me. He had to do another couple hours.
I was supposed to call him. He called me yesterday afternoon. I had called him a couple of days ago, and I was supposed to call him back last night, but I had a whole series of little issues here. Two of my kitties got sick. They just ate too much, and I don't even want to get into this. I was cleaning up my carpets for hours. Okay?
Oh God!
I have a wet vac. Thank God for rainbow wet vacs. You know. Anyway. Back to the story. It appears that in chapter 8, incidentally, is the chapter that deals with all the crazy, nasty earth changes that we are beginning now to experience going into the end times. Now, I'm not going to try to predict that I know when the end times are, but I'll tell you something. If you learn how to read the book of Revelation, and if you go to chapter 8, and you go to verse 11, it says, "And the name of the star is Wormwood."
It does.
Now, I know everybody at Chernobyl. No.
See, I don't think it's Chernobyl because...
Don't get sidetracked by that.
Well, here's why I don't think so. Is because I hear often, well, in Russian it's Chernobyl. It's like, okay, well, why is Russian significant? What does it mean in Japanese? You know, so anyways, Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I put all the pieces together, and I'll digress one little point. During the time of my research, I had a living room wall that served as a huge, what do you call it when you put 3x5 cards up? Not chalkboard. It was like a huge piece of
a puzzle.
That's something that absorbs pins.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, like what detectives do.
Yeah, like you see one of these detective shows. I must have had at one point about 2,400 3x5 cards. I was buying map tick pins. I must have had 3,000 of those suckers, okay? And what I would do is, as I'd get a new piece of information, I'd have to find where it fit into the puzzle. And eventually it led me to the book of Revelation. Do you know who Dr. James J. Hurtak is?
No, not offhand.
I've got to get him on your show. He will fascinate your audience. I've known Jim now for 25, 30 years. That's another whole story for another show.
Give him my email. I'd love to have him on.
When we do the show, are we still doing our 17th show?
Yes, we're still scheduled for the 17th with Robert. Okay. He's going to be joining us too, and
right.
Yeah.
Right. I'll talk a little bit about Jim Hurtak then. He's been my mentor, and he's absolutely unbelievable. If you want to learn a little bit, just Google up the Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge. The Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge, Dr. James J. Hurtak, and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. So I suddenly realized, all the pieces started to come together because I had been researching earthquakes and tidal waves and volcanoes and storms and tornadoes, all of that stuff, and it all suddenly came together. Okay, where did this little baby sun come from, and why was it called Wormwood? About 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, I theorized that there were 12 planets, there was no asteroid belt. If you've ever been to a planetarium and you walk in and you see the display, you see it's like a big wall mural. You see the sun in the center, and you see all the planets in their proper spacing and alignment. You know, starting with the sun, and then the hot one, and Venus, and then Earth, and then eventually all the way out to little Pluto. You'll notice that they're all rotating the sun in a counterclockwise rotation. not clockwise, counterclockwise, as does all of the stars in our galaxy, as do all of the planets that circle our sun, and our sun itself rotates in a counterclockwise direction. Now, there's a reason for that. It has to do with the center point of the galaxy, which they believe is probably a gigantic black hole, which holds all, can you imagine the power? It holds the 10 billion count of stars in our galaxy, and all of the star clusters, and it goes on and on and on and on. And I asked a question earlier, who in the hell designed the computer program that created all of that? Now, our galaxy is a small one. There are 100 million suspected, you can check me out, at least 100 million potential galaxies, if you understand how the string theory works, okay? Ours is not a very spectacular galaxy. Yet, it's 150,000 light years across, and it's between 75 and 85,000 light years thick at its core. And it all rotates in a counterclockwise motion. I'm not sure that we've ever been presented the real scientific reason for that, but it is a fact that this is how the galaxy and everything in it rotates, including our solar system. Why is this important? Because about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, I theorized, and I started to mention about me being a contactee. I was on a large 1950s vintage, what we call a flying saucer. Incidentally, they all used to be round. Now they're wedge-shaped. Now they're star-shaped. They're oval.
Oh, they can
oblong.
make Rosie O'Donnell fly now. Levitate.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big fan of Rosie.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, she loves. Oh, she and the Donald are the best of friends.
Oh, I know.
All right. So, I asked about these things in subsequent years, but while I was on board the ship, I was 11 years old, and I was on board this craft for just under 5 hours. I was given a complete tour of my future life. I was told where I would be living and the projects I would be involved in, and the fact that I would write a series of books on UFOs and extraterrestrials and the solar system. And one of the things that I was shown almost at the very end of my tutorial, I was in this classroom with my friend Alon, A-A-L-O-N, for about almost an hour. And I was shown how this collision, which I'll describe in a second, took place, and how this baby sun got kicked out of its orbit and why. So I come at this story and this theory and the book I wrote with what I feel is inside knowledge that has pretty much been backed up by all the different people that I've interfaced with. And God, I've had hundreds and thousands of emails over the last 7-8 years.
And we got another break coming up in about 4 minutes, Dr. Rand. Just letting you know.
let me just finish how the baby sun got kicked out, and then we can go on from there.
Okay.
This object was a huge planetary-sized asteroid-type space object, and it came careening, in this case, through the plane of the ecliptic of our solar system. It took out at least 1 or 2 planets on the outer fringes. One of them may be Nibiru, this so-called planet inhabited by the Nephilim, okay? And I'm not exactly sure that this planet might, in fact, it might be in tow behind our modern-day Planet X or Wormwood. It would explain, in many things in the Bible, about the Nephilim seem to come and go.
Could be an army of Hillary Clintons, maybe.
Oh, don't say that. You'll scare all of our listeners away.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. So continue,
Michael,
please.
Apologize to everybody.
Oh, I am sorry. I am.
I don't want to beat up. I hate to digress. I don't want to beat up on Hillary. Can you imagine her utter despair and humiliation at having to congratulate Donald on winning the presidency that day.
Well, Dr. Rand, I'll be honest. I have suspicion that she's on the bat phone calling some of these leaders around the world trying to get them to give Donald a hard time. I personally think that, but
I'm sure, but I look at it this way: if she's as sinister as we believe she is, she'll have to meet her maker in her own time and in her own fashion and come up with her own answers, and I leave it at that.
Okay. All right.
That's fair enough?
That is fair enough. All right.
So this object comes careening in through taking out a couple of planets. One of them might have been Nibiru, and it kind of zeroes its trajectory in between Saturn and Mars. There was a planet very famous in ancient literature and lore, all the way back to the Phoenicians and all the way back to the early Mesopotamian cultures. It was called Marduk. And that name, if you want to Google up the name Marduk, everybody out there, it's a fascinating little bit of research that you will do. It hit Marduk head on, smashing it into 10 billion trillion pieces, which then became what I believe is the Asteroid Belt. You know, they give us all these lame excuses. Well, all the debris that was left over, no, it just didn't all collect in that orbit. Come on. The public isn't that stupid, okay?
That's right.
The public just isn't that gullible. Something had to happen to create that huge collection of space debris, all right? I believe it was Marduk. Now, a big piece of it blew off of Marduk, and a piece of it hit Mars, killing it. Another piece hit the Earth, and I think at that point, since Pangea was the one large main landmass, I believe that it hit somewhere in the area of what is modern-day Mediterranean Sea. By the way, the Mediterranean Sea is very deep, okay?
Right.
And it's got a strange configuration. The question is, how in the hell did the Mediterranean Sea get to be the shape and the size that it is, and have the Rock of Gibraltar having that narrow isthmus to go through, okay? Now, when that happened, I believe it began what's known as continental drift, where the continent started breaking apart. They think it happened around 4.5 to 5 billion years ago. We can talk about that in another show. Okay. Another piece hit the Earth. Just talked about that. Another piece hit Venus, instantly killing its atmosphere. And another piece hit our little hot baby. I call it the hot baby.
The hot baby, huh?
the little guy that just sizzles near the sun. And then another piece, a big piece, happened to collide with the little baby sun head on. And when it did, mind you, this little baby sun is in its formative stages to become a fusion planet. Our sun is a perpetual fusion machine. Supposedly it will last another 7 to 10 billion years. Of course, none of us will be around, all right? And when it happens, it will enlarge and finally explode, and it'll take out everything in the solar system. So when it hit this little baby sun, it hit this huge piece of space debris, hit the sun so hard, it killed it. It killed its fusion process, spun it 180 degrees out of its orbit, which was in a counterclockwise motion, and sent it careening out away from the sun toward a trajectory that directed it toward the blue-black giant, which is the giant cold. That sun is a cold fusion star. And it sent it out on this long 1,800-year trek from around our sun, which cast it out, and it takes 1,800 years for it to approach the blue-black giant, comes back around it, and it is slingshotted back toward the Earth. The same principle that happened to Apollo 13. Remember, Houston, we've got a problem, and it had to complete its trip to the moon in order to get back to Earth. Of course, they couldn't land. They couldn't stop. They had to keep it going, and it went up.
I read Dr. Rand where they said that they actually, I think they had found ice on Mercury. And so if, here we're talking about a planet so close to the sun, and I'm thinking, how the hell is there ice on it? But
I'm not sure of that. I've never read any reports on that, but I'm not.
I did. I read a science.
I'm not an astrophysicist, so I can't yay or nay, but it sounds pretty implausible.
Well, they said down into some of the craters, there's actually ice.
There might be.
Yeah,
there might be. So this object, which is now returning after 1,800 years, has been approaching our solar system to a point where in 2004, they announced, it was NASA who announced that they had discovered this incoming body, and they called it Planet X. I didn't identify it as that. They did. Okay? And then they came out with another story in U.S. News and World Report in 2003 that, in fact, it was an inbound brown dwarf star. And they called it Planet X. So I felt, I had gone through all this stuff in 2003 and 2004, doing the research, and then I find out later that, yes, NASA had announced it and came back with several reports. Of course, all those reports, you can't hardly find them anymore except in the archives, okay? So I believe that what's happening with Planet X, and we'll wrap up Planet X, is that she's now finishing her inbound course, and I believe that it's already started its outbound passage. And around September, October of 2017, the electromagnetic effects of its mass will stop influencing our sun. It's like if you suddenly pull apart two magnets, they suddenly burst apart.
Yeah.
I'm worried that this whole earthquake thing that you and I have been talking.
Uh-oh. Sounds like he pulled the cord. He sure did. All right. This is a good time to take a break. Let me try to get him back on, though. He's going to, let's see here. I'll add him back. And, folks, I'm going to tell you this. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I am Michael Vera. My guest is Dr. Rand because, well, he's here tonight, which has been great. But he's filled in because the guest who was scheduled decided that, I don't know, there was better things to do. So, but that's okay, because we've had more fun tonight with Dr. Rand than we would have had with that other stiff. So, that being said, the website is www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. Go on over, become a member, and be informed. And by all means, inform others. I'm telling you, folks, we're not like, I don't know if there's any others like us. There might be. I don't know. I don't go around looking. I did for a little while. But we've got, when we were building this network, I was out there scouting like crazy looking for, decent shows. Well, a lot of them just kind of fell in our lap. And we've got a great network now. So I'm not out there really, listening around for anything, so I don't know. Most of what I listen to, I hear a lot of butt kissing going on. They kiss butt because they want certain people to be their guests. And they know that they have to play ball in order for that to happen. So I see that. Then there's the others who exaggerate things like crazy. I don't know. Then there's us. We just say it like we see it. I can't say it's always the way it is, but it's the way I see it. And I don't know. I'm a pretty good judgment of things. So, if I say something, and listen, I'm not one to call out somebody unless I have the absolute evidence, proof, if I could prove it, and then I will. And, so when you hear me talking about people like Hillary Clinton or even the stooge who was scheduled tonight, I do it because it needs to be done, not because I enjoy doing it. You ever hear the parent say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, but just before they spank your tail, right? I think we've all witnessed it or been through it, right? Well, that's how it is for me with some people. It's like, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts them because I hate to have to do it. But, I don't like being played around with. It's just enough's enough. All right. So that being said, Dr. Rand is on the line with me. I don't believe we've lost him. He's back. And I'm going to try to add Robert Pepino to the call as well. He's becoming a regular, Robert is. So let's go ahead and try to add. I'm going to try to add you, Robert. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Call Scott. Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, see, and it's not showing on my screen either. So if he's on here, I won't even know it. It's just ridiculous. Dr. Rand, we're back. Okay. I don't know what happened.
Did Robert make it?
I don't know. Robert, are you with us?
Robert?
I don't think he is. I don't think he is.
Let me do this. I want to get to those calls that you've got in the chat, but I want to just finish real quick. I think that what's happening is that this rogue brown dwarf star, which was the little baby star we talked about, has come back from its long trek. And in our book, we talk about all the history of it. We go chapter by chapter by chapter, spelling it out and detailing it. All of our chapters are footnoted, all where all the information came from. There's no second guessing here. And I think that we're now reaching around, at the end of 2017, we're going to see the conclusion to everything that's happening. But where I was at when we left the air was, I think that this earthquake pattern that's been building now for the last several years, I'm hoping that it doesn't climax in a series. I'm hoping that it doesn't climax in a series of global earthquakes, because if it does, it will fulfill all the covenants of chapter 8 of the book of Revelation, and it will lead us into the end times. And I'm not going to go crazy religious biblical on you, but if you don't know how to read the tea leaves, you're not going to enjoy the tea. Okay?
Well, yeah, very well said. These poor callers. Thank you so much, everyone, for trying to call in. We've missed so many calls tonight because of this Skype, and it's too bad. But we'll get there.
We still love you. We love every one of you.
We do. And Robert wanted so badly to join in. I can't even add him. I've tried. It's not letting me.
Well, Robert, we love you too.
Yep, Microsoft, we hate you. All right.
So listen, let's take as many calls as we can. We got a half hour left.
Well, yeah, and these would be chat questions.
I'll try to fire them off as quickly as we can.
All right. Well, first here, I don't know if this is just I think it's just a statement. You can't be credible when you, I don't know, SIS. It's about Jesse Ventura and sick Jesse Ventura on David Icke. That's referring back when we were talking about Alex Jones. I agree. So basically, Alex Jones sicked Jesse Ventura on David Icke on one of the conspiracy theory shows. And before that aired, okay, they did that filming. And then, when they film those, it's another year before they hit the TV. And so during that year, all year, Alex Jones was saying, "Oh, David Icke's my favorite guest. I love David Icke." And it's like, dude, and why did you go after him? But anyways, that's that. I agree. Then we got a question here. Let's see. Katie, she says, Lotus has a question. How come we don't have a media news station that just presents the facts and offers no opinion at all?
Oh.
You want to take that?
Yeah. Is she referring, I assume that she's referring to the sorry state of the crooked media these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's put it this way. I've been a political interested person since I was a poll watcher with my mother all the way back to the 50s. I have never, ever not known a time when the press was liberal, and I have never known a time when the Democrats, and, there are brothers and sisters. I don't want to trash them as not being American, but I've never known the Democrats not to play dirty pool. I lived in Chicago. I can tell you, there are thousands and thousands of dead people that vote every single election.
It's the zombie apocalypse. Every 4 years, they come out of their graves with their voters' registrations.
And then they disappear again. It's like my Donald Trump sand crab people that I talked about leading up to the election. Remember?
Yeah. Then you got Hillary Clinton's grave crab people.
Oh, you said it. I didn't. All right. To sum that up, and then we'll take as many more questions as we can.
Okay.
I'm not sure that this will correct itself the first 4 years. I think that what the Donald's going to have to do, the president, I shouldn't say the Donald, President Trump, is going to have to absolutely clean up the swamp, drain it, bring forth his policies, prove that he's right, prove that he's sane, and I don't know if there's such a thing as shaming the press back into becoming normal, rational, thinking human beings. We can try. The
only way that gets fixed, Dr. Rand, is if somebody with those morals buys out the news agency and insists on it or fires the people for not doing it. I think with the people who are running it all now, I have no faith in them at all. They're puppets. They do, I don't know. I guess they do what they're told, but...
Many of these chains are owned by families, like the Hearst Corporation.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might not happen the way you'd like to address it. let's take another question if we can.
All right, and I'll close out by saying this: the best way we could show them that they're not serving we the people is to don't give them ratings. Don't turn them on. Don't watch them. I mean, they'll be sitting there talking to just their cameraman soon, and that's the way you want it.
Don't buy the newspapers and magazines. That's real easy.
Yeah, it is. Just like foods, they want to put poison in it. Don't buy it.
And if you don't like Ashley Judd, don't buy her music and don't go see her in the movies.
Yeah, and throw an egg at her. Okay.
No, no, that's not being classy, buddy.
Well, no, it's not. But then they're not classy, are they?
Yeah, but you don't have to stoop to their level.
That's true. But Hillary Clinton said the whole time, when they go low, we go high. And look, they've done nothing but go low. So,
well, what kind of high are they talking about?
I wonder. Got to check Bill's pockets, see what he's got.
Oh, here we go.
All right, so here's a question from Prime. Says, I would like to ask the guest about his thoughts about using water as fuel and how it can save humanity.
That's an excellent question. I have heard all kinds of stories. In fact, my dear friend is staying with me. He wants to build a water fusion conversion system and power automobiles and windmills and all these other things. I think it's totally possible. Apparently, the president made or was it DARPA? Somebody said that he was going to announce that we do have a cure for cancer and all these other horrible diseases, but that they're being suppressed. Now, I see no reason why modern-day technology cannot come up with a machine driven either by hydrogen in combination with water or some other ingredient that works. Now, I'm not having a problem with gasoline engines. They've been a part of our history now for 114, 115 years. The point is, let's do everything we can to aid the planet, to clean up the emissions problems, but at the same time, let's not trash what oil does. Do you realize every plastic bag you have comes from oil, and all of the different technologies that the oil industry has spawned to make modern day products and efficiencies? You just can't trash it.
Well,
Same thing with coal.
I'm all for using the oil to continue making plastics and stuff like that. Okay, that's fine. But I'll tell you this. I did a show back in 2011 on WOIC 12:30 a.m. here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I did a show with a guy who had built a motor, an engine, a vehicle that runs on water. And I had a colleague at the time who I don't speak with no more. But he went, and I think it was in Tennessee, he went and actually witnessed it with his own eyes. We had this guy on the show. We had over 1 million listeners that night. As a matter of fact, that show was the craziest show I ever did in my life. People were pulling in the back parking lot of the studio, and I was at an undisclosed sub-studio, and they found me. And they were pulling in with big antennas on the back of they looked like something from outer space. I mean, they were huge, thick ass antennas in the back of their trucks, and they were picking up our broadcast and sending it other places. I got contacted by senators and congressmen and all kinds of stuff after the show. The phone was ringing off the hook, and I mean, it was nuts, Dr. Ron. And then all of a sudden it just started fading away, but it's real.
Well, I believe it, and I think that we will have these technologies. One of my colleagues that's working on this new device that we want to bring forth to save lives, he was one of the people, he's one of several scientists that is working on a fusion propulsion engine for the first trip to Mars in 2024, or 2020, they're saying 2020. I'm not going to hold my breath for that, okay? We can't even go back to the damn moon. we don't even have a reputable vehicle that can go back and forth to the moon and supply the space station. So maybe with the Trumpster, we can start to correct that problem too. Because, the Obama boy, he gutted the space agency.
Yeah, he really did, and I understand that people believe that there's a secret space program, and I got to be honest, I think there is too, to an extent. I don't know how deep that goes because I've never seen what I need to see to back it all up. But I do believe that there is this space program.
It's pretty hard if there is. It's pretty hard to hide these space launches. Don't you think people aren't watching Cape Canaveral and Edwards? Come on.
Well, I think the people are thinking technology much more advanced than just igniting off in a spaceship. But who knows?
You're referring to Hitler's saucers?
Well, not so much. More like teleportation type technologies, maybe time travel type technologies that they could possess that we don't know about. Maybe they have secret craft that you know how many times I've gotten people who've contacted me and said they've had sightings. One guy sent me a picture. He had sightings of these bright objects coming out of volcanoes. And I say, how do you know it's not coming out from behind the volcano rather than inside of the volcano? But nevertheless, if it is coming from inside the volcano, how do we know that there's not these secret space programs aren't within our hollow areas of our Earth and, disguised with things like volcanoes?
We don't. Yeah. I can tell you this. That gentleman I keep telling you that, is staying with me now.
Yes.
I told you, he and I had this incredible 20-minute experience on his roof of a three-story building in April of 2004 in Los Angeles. We witnessed, and I believe we were on the craft for about 12 to 18 minutes, this huge, magnificent, wedge-shaped ship that was there just for us. I know everybody says, "What are you?" Well, it's not the first sighting I've had. My God, I've been a contactee all my life. This time, it was for my friend, but it was also partly for me, because I was a little distraught at the time. I had come to L.A. from Denver to work on I had started, remember I told you about my friendship with Colonel Marina Popovich, the Soviet jet test pilot.
Oh, yes,
I'm
sir.
still very close with. And I'm trying to get back in touch with her. She and I are going to work on the Russian government to release, if we can get the Trumpster to release our UFO files, I'm sure we can get the Russians to do theirs. They are so far ahead of us on UFO research. Make us look like inklings, okay? Anyway, we saw this tremendous three-tiered wedge-shaped craft that I know what it was. I recognized it immediately, and I knew that we were the only ones that were privileged to see it that night. So, I know the technology. Now, that's not our technology. That has nothing to do with Earthian technology. No way in hell. The way it performed and how it was floating, and it was completely silent. Do you remember how the Klingon warbirds used to shimmer into focus on Star Trek?
Yes.
This is exactly what that did.
I know. This stuff that we've seen on TV, it's not far-fetched, and I know. See, this is how they get you, and that's those who are keeping the secrets. Because you bring up this stuff, and they go, "Oh, they watch Star Trek." They think, and so right.
Where do you think Gene Roddenberry got all his stuff from?
I know. I'm with you.
He and I were friends for almost 30 years.
Yeah,
I rode with him rode with him several times in his secret red Corvette that nobody knew. Not even his wife, Majel. Majel Barrett, his wife, his third wife, was on Star Trek. She played Deanna Troy's mother several times. All right.
See, Dr. Rand is a history book.
Well, he was a contactee just like me. He and I talked about it at length. All of those stories and all of that technology was all given to him. His mission was to bring it forth to the world, and he fulfilled his commission. That's all I want to say about that. Okay.
All right, we've got some more questions here, and we're getting
low
on time. All
right.
Away. Please ask Dr. Rand if the Foo Fighters are unmanned UFOs.
Yes, but I wouldn't call them UFOs. They're identified. They're not unidentified.
All right.
Are you talking about the ones that were witnessed during World War II by both sides? Those Foo Fighters?
Well, he says Foo Fighters are unmanned UFOs, satellites, basically.
They're all of the above. They're all of the above. They're alien technologies. They're basically the same kind of thing that drones do now.
All right. CR says, tried to call, think they blocked your phone, bastards. All right, I agree with you.
Well, listen, we love you for trying. Get back at us on the 17th if you can.
All right. Pops asked what his take is on the Hopi prophecy and the red Kachina, blue Kachina.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Here we go. Oh, that's a sensitive subject. The Hopi are one of the most special, gifted, and beloved Indian cultures on the planet. They were especially chosen by the space people to carry the message and be the keepers of the secrets. By the way, I was given a piece of the sacred shard, which I just had in my hand 2 days ago. One of the Hopi prophecies is that as the end time approaches, the grand mosaic will be totally put back together, and it will then prophesy as close as possible the beginning of the end of this era and this epic time of which the Hopis are the guardians of the information. I don't want to tell you how I got the shard, but I will be told when to bring it.
Holy cow, are they screwing around with us, man? But, go ahead. I'm sorry. They had you coming in and out like.
Are you serious?
I swear to God, wherever and whoever or whatever it is. Yes, absolutely. Playing with our
Did you understand anything I said?
Oh yeah, they just did it at the end here. It was near the end. So yes, it was probably your last 10 words.
Well, we still love you guys. You don't have to mess around. You don't have to do this. Okay. Anyway,
they're playing with our frequencies, Dr. Rand.
I've got a small piece of shard. I will copy it for you on my copier in color, and I'll blow it up for you. This grand mosaic, once it's put back together, you see, I've been privileged to have a piece of it because of my connection to the Hopi through the UFO experiences that I've had, and I have the greatest respect for them. They are wise, and they are gentle, and they are all-knowing, and they are the guardian keepers of the end time dates and times, and I'll leave it at that. And I will know when I need to get the shard back to the Mesa. Okay?
All right, let me get you another question here. We got one more as of right now, and it's Daryl says, Dr. Rand, if the speed of light squared is the central core of non-dual reality, how will consciousness manifest in a reality where technology has faded and information replaces it as a primary imperative in our light, dark-based material planet? I think this guy works at NASA.
Ooh, yikes!
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure quite how to approach that, but I think I can. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I know about everything he just discussed. Okay.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: knowledge, true knowledge, doesn't come from the outside. It's given to you through spiritual enlightenment and discernment and understanding. If the space of your soul is in balance, and if you understand the covenants of what Christ's teachings were about unconditional love.
I'll accept that.
I didn't throw you, did I? I wasn't trying to be cute.
No, it's just if you understood that question enough to give that answer, I'm going to accept it.
Okay.
That's all. But listen, we've got about another 5 minutes, and what I want to do, Dr. Rand, is give you the floor to get out anything that you'd like, and I thank you for coming in and helping save the day. Thank you.
Well, I want to go back to the political issues.
Okay.
I just today was devastated. A very dear, loving friend of mine. I'm not going to go with any names. A lady that I've enjoyed dinners and lunches with and deep conversations. She called me up to tell me that because I was a Trump supporter, that she could no longer feel in her conscience that she could talk to me or be with me or have lunch. When I say be, I don't mean physically. I'm talking about as a friend. And she said it hurt her so deeply that I would put this monster in the White House. And I thought to myself, and I said to her, I still love you no matter what you say to me. You can't diminish my respect for you other than I worry about you dealing with reality properly. She said she was contemplating, no, seriously, she said she was contemplating suicide, that her world was coming to an end. And I'm saying to everybody out there, get a handle on it. Get to know yourself. Stop with this nonsense. You're hurting the country. You're destroying reality for this administration. You're hurting the 32 million or 34 million people that voted properly in the election. Just deal with it. That's it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want it to end. I don't want to end the show this way, but I was very hurt today by her.
Oh, I support that completely. You know, I just read a story off in the beginning in our news segment, the beginning of the show, a 22-year marriage. They're in their 70s, and the woman.
Yeah, I heard that.
She left him because he voted for Trump. And I got to be honest, if Autumn was like a Hillary supporter and she argued with me over the politics, that I couldn't be with her either. I'd have to let her go. I'd have to. There's no way I could deal with that. No way. I couldn't. I can't be in the same house with somebody who you got to sleep at night with these people. I mean, if they're thinking on them grounds, if they're all with what's been going on in this country, if that's okay with them, I don't want to close my eyes around those people.
Let me send out a greeting to Kellyanne. Kellyanne, I mentioned I mentioned in my letter to her about our show, The Final Countdown, and the fact that I was on the Late Night in the Midlands network. Kellyanne, if you are listening, or any of your associates or researchers are listening, we would love for you to entertain the letter and the packet that we sent. And if need be, we'd love to have you on our show. Michael, what's your listening audience? Give us a figure.
Oh, it's up there. It's really hard to give a figure. I mean, off the top of my head, but I mean, it's well worth it. And on top of that, I wouldn't mind doing the broadcast right from the White House. But I know that ain't gonna.
Wouldn't that
would be something?
Well,
yeah.
Anyway, Kellyanne, my dear, we love you. We respect you. You turned the beast around. You tamed the press. You brought everybody to their knees, and you delivered us a brand new president when we needed it desperately. So if you are listening, let us know, and we would love to have you on, or the president. Wouldn't that be something if we could get him on for just 2 minutes to say hello to the audience? That helped elect him.
Yeah, well, that would be awesome. That'd be, and matter of fact, that's the goal too. And so good luck. I mean, I'd like for it to happen, but even if it don't, I won't hold it against him. I know he's got bigger fish to fry than
Michael, it will happen if our heart and our spirits are in the right direction and we pray on it. Yeah. I'm not going religious on you, Mikey.
Oh, I know. And so, we'll see. I mean, I went far on beyond. I went and bought time at a 50,000 watt radio station during his campaign. And I used that time to preach Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, I had one of the women that Bill Clinton abused on the show, Juanita, was on.
Roderick.
So I had her on the show. I mean, so, I put time and money into it. I would hope he'd take a couple minutes up.
Here's what I'd like you to do for me. Since I did kind of help tonight, I'd like you to cut me 2 CDs of tonight's show. One for me to audition, and I want to send one with a cover letter on to Kellyanne following the proposal that we sent. Maybe she will give us a shot at either her coming on and or the president, or both.
Okay. I'd even take Mike Pence at this stage of the game.
What's that?
I said I'd even take Mike Pence at this stage of the game.
I'd love to have Mike Pence.
Yeah, I like him.
He was absolutely. By the way, he broke he cut he broke the tie today. How about that? Yay, team.
Yeah, he did. So, it's a shame what they have to go through. All that Obama got away with. Nobody pushed and shoved with him. But boy, Donald Trump, I mean, and you know why he's getting so much pushback? Because he's doing the right thing. And whenever you do the right thing, it's always going to be the hardest thing you do. So,
well, let's put it in the good Lord's hands. Let's pray on it. Like I say, I'm not going religious on you.
I think
I've come to a whole new spiritual awareness of who I'm trying to become. Okay.
Yeah, well, I believe me. I think it is in the Lord's hands. If you is for a lack of metaphor, but yeah, I think it is. I want to
leave everybody. I want to leave everybody with the new awareness.
Okay.
Check out the Jabez prayer.
The Jabez
from the
prayer.
Bible. The Jabez prayer. It's a prayer for guidance, for enhancing your territory, which means your success. It calls for the safety of the angels. I firmly believe that the hand of God was influencing and did deliver the saving of this nation. And I think that about wraps up my religious
right.
bent for tonight.
All right, and we're out of time, Dr. Rand. So listen, I mean, we are down to second. So I want to thank you so much for being
My
here.
pleasure.
All right,
My pleasure.
we'll be talking again on the 17th. So looking forward to
You got it. Good night, everybody. And remember, you're only as good as you want to be.
it. All right, have a good one, Dr. Rand. Thank you so much. Please ask guest to summarize his Planet X theory and timeline. He said Mystery Man said he was on track. How, when, etc.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
All right. Let's take a 5-minute setup on Planet X.
All right.
All right. In my book, let's get a plug in. Is that cool?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
All
Let's
right.
do
The
it.
book is called The Return of Planet X. Just Google up Planet X, and I'm all over the internet and the book and references and all that stuff. Anyway, my original thesis and theory was that around 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, when the planets were coming together and coalescing, and of course the sun was doing its thing, there were originally 12 planets in our solar system, not the 9 that we recognize. And we had 3 suns. There was the Sol that we know, the sun we see every day. There's the blue-black giant that anchors and controls our sun about 1 billion miles out away from the center of the solar system, out into deep space. They call it the blue-black giant. And there was a third sun, a little baby sun. And it was the size of Saturn, but 60 times the mass of Saturn. It was a little baby sun that our sun was nurturing to become another fusion sun. Why was there 3 suns? That sun, we believe, was originally designed to work exclusively with Venus, Earth, and Mars. Venus being the second planet from the sun, Earth being the third, and Mars being the fourth planet from the sun. And I always like to pose the question to our listening audience. Can you imagine what kind of a computer program someone or something or some external force, be it the God force or whatever, whomever you want to give credit to, the solar system just didn't happen? The sun controls everything under its influence. All the planets, all the moons, the asteroid belt, we'll explain how that came about. It controls every aspect of our solar system in perfect, balanced.
And now Skype just closed on me. You gotta be kidding. I mean, you just gotta be kidding. Let me boot it back up. I will remain calm. I won't start screaming about 1776. That's for sure. Holy smokes. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, Dr. Rand, let's bring you back in, my friend. Boy, unbelievable. Just unfreaking believable tonight. I pay for this. I can't believe I pay for this. See what I mean? How we pay to be abused? I mean, we really do. I'm paying to be abused. I'm not. What am I getting out of this relationship with Skype? Except for headaches. And bad reviews. Listen to that show. All he does is have trouble with his phone lines. All right, Dr. Rand, let's bring you back to our world.
Hello?
Hey, Dr. Rand. Apparently the universe wasn't happy with your conversation, so you're back, though. Sorry about that.
Let's put it this way. They're back.
Yeah, let's call them the gremlins. That's really what they are. Don't feed them after midnight.
Why is it every time we talk about Planet X this happens? I don't think there's been only 1 or 2 shows where we haven't been rudely interrupted.
Oh, I know. Go figure. It's incredible.
Well, guys, if you're listening, give us a chance to say what we want to say, and then come down on us. All
right. Go ahead. So you were talking about
the sun.
Yes.
All right. Everything that happens to our planet and all the other planets and every satellite that the sun controls happens because of the sun's influence. Now, if something is disturbing the sun, the sun sheds its discomfort and its displeasure and its malfunction to everything else under its control. In this case, it would be the Earth going through all these weather changes. Hello? Everyone, anyone who wants to go ahead and check us out, just do your research on the internet. Go find out about the sun's normal cycle, which is way out of kilter. Go ahead and find out about sunspots and these aberrations where the sun spits out these energy storms, the CMEs, and all of that kind of thing. And you'll suddenly realize, as I've been saying for years, I don't believe, and I'll graduate back to Planet X, but it's important we understand the foundation. In fact, tonight's a really good night. We haven't talked about Planet X to this depth in months.
No, we haven't. And for the listeners, I'm going to tell you really quick before we dive any more into this, is that I am going to be looking into getting an actual hardline phone service into this desk here so that I don't have to deal with Skype no more. I've had it. I've really had it with them. But go ahead, Dr. Rand.
Well, you do know that they record everything on Skype, don't you?
Well, then they know I don't like them. I don't like them at all.
And you also know that if you guys out there are playing kitsy cats with your wives and girlfriends and boyfriends, don't do that. That's all being recorded. That's all I want to say. Hey, I'm not pulling an Alex Jones on you, and I'm not going to pull a Donald Trump on you. But they're watching and listening.
That's right.
Okay. Whew. Got that off my chest. All right. Now, I do not believe that the concept of global warming is accurate. And I do not believe, on the other side, that we're in a global cooling. I think what's happening is the sun is being confused by the approach and soon to be the leaving of this object, which I wrote about in the book called Planet X. Okay? By the way, get it on Amazon at half price. Okay? Just call them up and order the book, and they'll send it to you half price. If you want to get a book through Michael, let him know and I'll sign it, okay? The sun right now is still in a very disturbed state. And the only way I can describe it to you is the fact that, and we're going to talk about the influence of how magnets work. I'm sure as a kid or a student, you've played with a pair of magnets. You have positive and negative force in magnets. If you put the two positives together, you can't. It's almost impossible to force two magnets against each other and hold them. If you flip them around and have the negative positive, bam, they lock in together, okay? Now, this object, which I call Planet X, or wormwood, and I'll get into the wormwood aspect in a second. What's been happening is that the mass of this object, and I'll go back in, Mike, and tell you how I think it got out there and how it all happened. I alluded to it about what would happen about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago. This object has been inbound toward our solar system. It's never, in this event, which happens about every 3,600 years, it does not go through the solar system. It doesn't go through the plane of the ecliptic. It approaches our solar system from way, way